allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seek a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
First by Bo, second by Amanda. All in favor? 7-0. All right. Everybody look through the consent agenda and let us know if you have any changes or anything you need to modify in there. Amy, I need to abstain from check 52349.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Derek, seconded by Bo. All in favor? 7-0. All right, let's get started with our administrator reports. And we'll start with Dr. Wolf.
We had another bus inspection and all 8 of our buses were approved for service, so that's always a good thing. The other piece that, of course, we deal with this time of year is what is happening in the legislature with our state funding. And we won't know for certain until the end of the legislative session, May 15th. However, we are being told that we may have shortfalls even this year in our June payment. And some of the projections, depending on which way the House and Senate compromise budget bill goes, we may have a shortfall next year of anywhere from $142,388 to $235,377. Of course, that can always change. They can withhold more, or they could decide to fund more. So again, we won't know that until May the 15th. That's it.
Any questions?
No highlights, I? Just playing.
All right, no questions. Move on to Mr. Culpepper.
All right. Getting ready for the end of the year. A lot of stuff going on in the next 2 weeks. Met with Shannon last week. He's all ready to set up for stuff starting tomorrow with the FFA banquet tomorrow night at 6. They will have pretty well end of year events almost every day in the gym, between kindergarten graduation, music concerts, junior high promotion this Friday. So we're pretty busy there. Mapping the OC are starting to wrap up. We have a few more to give on that, but we're getting close on that. Athletic updates. Boys baseball team's doing really strong this year. They won the California Versailles Turf War the other day. Looks like they'll have a pretty good chance going into districts again this year. Track's had several athletes break school records and placed in the top 3 in almost every meet. Softball's going to have a winning season this year for the first time in several years. I haven't looked back to see the exact time it's been since they had a winning season, but they will have a winning season this year for the first time in quite a few years. So spring sports are doing really well. Golf also won the CSA tournament, and they are looking like they'll have a good chance to win in districts and possibly move on to state as well. So spring sports are doing really well. Professional development, last week I met with our person, Jeannie, talked to her on the phone about our PD for next year, just with the changes we have next year with our schedule as far as having less PD days built in. So how that looks different next year for some of our staff, and then having new teachers as well. FFA state competition results. As a chapter, we placed 3rd place out of 369 chapters. We had 3rd place team Ag Sales, made up of Caitlin Tubb, Nick Wolf, Delaney Doyle, and Brock Battles. 4th place meets evaluation team of Carter Helms, Gavin Milton, and Jordan Nailers. We had 12 students who received their FFA state degrees, 5 area winning proficiencies with their SAE projects, with 1 state champion runner-up, Gio Ubaldo, and then star in placement. We had a state champion in Gio Ubaldo. So state FFA did really well, really well. A few updates to things that were made after what was due. Attendance, I did a yearly breakdown out. We're getting really close. Our yearly breakdown for high school, I haven't had time to get the middle school done yet, but majority of our kids that have the option in this school with driving and stuff is usually your high schoolers, so I started there. Yearly breakdown for high school. Second semester I looked at first. We have 28 students out of the 192 second semester who are going to receive perfect attendance. We have 86 students who are 95 to 99.2% attendance. So we have almost 60% of our students with 95% attendance or higher. And then in the 90 to 95 range is our next biggest group, which is 52. And then we have 14 in the 85 to 90, and then it drops down to 7 total kids in the 80 to 85, and then 5 below 83 of which have health issues with documentation. So the majority of our kids are where they're supposed to be, and our attendance this year has looked really strong, especially with having 60%, 95% or higher. Really proud of both the kids and the parents who make the kids come to school. For the full year, we also had 22 high school students that will receive perfect attendance for the entire year. So another really impressive number. I know 2 years ago, coming off COVID, we had a few back-to-back years there where we had less than 5 kids getting perfect attendance for the entire year. So to see that number back in the 20s with high school is really cool. On the last day of school, I have our awards ceremony for our students. Last year we had it during WIN. This year we adjusted our schedule to give a little bit more time. We'll start that at 2:20 this year. So we have almost a full hour to make sure we get all those awards done. Last year I felt like it just wasn't quite enough time. So we adjusted our schedule this year to make sure we have plenty of time, so we don't have to rush towards the end and make sure we get them all handed out. So if you guys are free on May 15th, you guys are welcome to come to the awards ceremony for the middle school and high school. All teachers that are not part of the middle school, junior high promotion, or graduation will hand out awards for the top students of their class, perfect attendance. We'll call the students up for honor roll, and some other awards with PBS for the 6th through 9th grade. So you guys are welcome to come to that. That'll be on 2:20 on the last day of school. And hopefully it'll take us up till about 3:15 and we can let them out for the year. So that's what I got.
Anyone have any questions? All right. And you said that's the 15th?
Yes.
14,
sorry.
15 back there.
Let me edit that real quick.
That's right on my calendar.
Ms. Pettigrew,
All right, we have had kindergarten roundup for this year and we had 31. Our list looks good. The teachers have been working to split those students up. The last week, starting I guess just yesterday, today's Tuesday, we are having checkout meetings with all of my staff and doing some planning for next year. Also summer PD, I've included that in there. We've got a couple of teachers who are going to the Literacy Summit at the lake, hosted by Desi. That's always a good one. Hannah Sanders will attend the Gifted Conference, and then I have 2 teachers who are going to Orlando for Get Your Teach On, so that's exciting. We have 161 students. That's our final number for summer school, so we're looking forward to that. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, and so we've had different activity, fun things planned every day for the teachers. Our PTO does a good job helping us with that, and I hope teachers feel like they're appreciated because they definitely are. We have MAP testing is all wrapped up. We are working on our end of the year testing for iReady, which is a big piece to look at our beginning of the year data and end of the year and see student growth. With that, we have some compliance pieces that have to be done for the state. So we'll work on reading success plans. Stacy Crane, Amanda Simon, and Roxanne and I will sit down and look through that data this Friday. Lots of activities. Our kids have been everywhere. Field trips wrap up this week. We had the Lions Club track meet last week. We had some kids come home with medals. I sent an email out to teachers today. I got a text from another school saying how well behaved our kids were, how encouraging and how good of a job they did. So that's always a good thing to think about. Just working with Shannon on what the building looks like since I have some teachers moving around and with preschool. But I think that we should be ready to go. Other than that, we're just pretty busy.
Questions? Dr. Hanson?
Mine's pretty short. The numbers hadn't changed a whole lot from the last time we met with the amount of special education students and count ratios. Updated like the amount of meetings. We did hold a lot more towards the end of the year. Three referrals came from the kindergarten roundup. So it is nice to know that like, hey, these are kids that hadn't been anywhere, hadn't been exposed, and we are getting some of those early intervention spots too. As for federal programs, the parents as teacher educators, Miss Garber and Miss Edwards, they are starting to work with families this week. So hopefully we'll get a couple visits. We'll get both the kindergarten screening, early childhood screening put in, so then payment reimbursement can start back up again. Special education tiered monitoring, I have one last part to do the end of May. That's with timelines for compliance. And then they'll have the summer to review it. We'll have to be in contact over the summer if there's any questions or any additional information. And then hopefully we will have very minimal corrective action come next year. There isn't any current events coming up for special education. Staff or either paras or teachers will assist with end of year field trips as requested and needed. We did finish up MAP 8 testing last week, and then we've been helping like to make sure any finishing assessments are being done for both sides of the buildings. We are meeting with staff for feedback, what kind of professional development, especially new staff coming in new roles, going ahead and get them signed up and plans for what next year looks like. So pretty much my wrap up.
All right, Bridget, did you have anything to add? Sorry, I missed you earlier.
Okay. I just have a quick question. Ms. Hanson?
Yeah.
And I didn't think about this before, but where we changed like our time slot, from like starting a little earlier and ending a little later,
Good point.
does that change like IEP minutes and stuff like that?
Yeah, so once we had the confirmation of start and end time, the total billing minutes does change, and all of special education staff has been informed. They are reaching out to parents to gain permission, not to necessarily change services for kids, but just to amend so the total building minutes were adjusted. Currently, the building operates on a 2,180 minute per week, like operation. Next year, it reduces down to 2,125 minutes with the change in bell schedule. So I know the only ones who would be impacted service minute wise is middle school, high school. Instead of a 51-minute block, they're going to a 50-minute block. So that 5 minutes does have to get tweaked and adjusted with those service minutes. But staff's already been informed. They're reaching out, making those amendments and changes.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, let's move to old business. We have Courtney here with LJ Hart to finish our defeasance agreement and future bond issues.
So again, it's nice, I'm glad that I'm not walking in the middle of the meeting like it was 2 months ago. It's really easier when we're at the beginning. So again, with me is Connor Wood, just going over basically continuation from what was started last summer, finishing up the defeasance, and then looking forward, and I just, what's gonna happen from here. Looking at the summer, looking then going into 2027. So with that said, I will turn it over to Connor.
Okay, we're going to start on page number 6. That is Exhibit A. This is the assessed valuation growth calculation for the district. We like to look at the last 5 years when we're making our projections to make sure that we're not being too risky when we're going towards new money and going towards prepayments and that such of thing. So over the last 5 years, you have an average growth of 4.66%. And in our spreadsheet and cash flow calculations, we project 2%. So we like to be more conservative just in case things go haywire. Moving on to Exhibit B on the following page. These are the adjusted levies by fund. At the top is 2025, 2026, with the new 50 cents in the teachers fund, and then that $1.08 debt service fund levy that we're here to talk about today. Moving on to the following. Schedule number 1 this is the 5.93 2021 bonds that were issued in 2021. that beautiful yellow section right there, that represents the defeasance. This is what will close on May 20th, and like what he said, this is just moving forward with what the board approved last summer. And then the purpose of that defeasance is to stabilize the debt service fund levy, and then it also saves around $235,000 of district funds. And then on the following page, Schedule 1A, this is what is remaining after the defeasance. So that big block is now missing because that will be in a different account. So it is no longer represented in cash flow. On page 10, spreadsheet number 1, this represents all of the revenues in the light green starting on that left-hand side. And then moving toward the right, the darker green is the total of all those revenues. The light blue, Schedule 1A, is what we just looked at the following page. This is including the $1.6 million defeasance. And then in the light purple, on the right-hand side of that, these are the balances in the debt service fund account. And this is including the $1.638 million defeasance that is subtracted out of 2025, 2026 balances.
The difference in the 1.6 versus the number, the 1,638,000, you were essentially prepaying some of the interest expense from now until March of 2028. There are some earnings within that account, but it's prepaying that interest in addition to all of those principal payments that were in that lovely yellow shaded box. Okay, so that's where that cash flow is where the district is and will be as of June 30th of this year. So I wanted to take the next step further. What happens next? So similar to what was done last year, we look at your debt service calculation, that Form C. So on page 11, I have a simple Form C calculation. I did assume a 3% growth in assessed valuation just for illustration purposes, even though we have the 2% growth in the cash flow. From last year to this year, we grew about 7.2%. So I'm a bit more conservative than what you had grown. It was also a reassessment year, but just for projection purposes, I do have that 3% and at line 1. Lines 2 and lines 4 represent your calendar year debt service fund payments that will be made from the 2021 bonds. Adding that together, along with some collection costs that the county will charge, you have total required for debt service on line 5, just under $1 million. The anticipated balance as of this calendar year is taking that estimated balance for 2026 as of June, subtracting out your September interest payment, so right around that $450,000 mark. We look at line 8, we have your assumed state assessed revenue coming in of just under $70,000, keeping that consistent with what was received for fiscal year 24-25. Based upon this calculation, it's looking as though the debt service fund levy would need to be lowered to just over 68 cents. Because you have the 21 bonds that are callable in 2028, on page 12, if I assume that the district were to approve a $330,000 prepayment of those bonds, taking it out of year 2041, $255,000, and then $75,000 out of fiscal year 2040, it would save just over $105,000. As a result of voluntarily making that prepayment by board action, because you're not adding any existing debt, on page 13, I have a revised Form C calculation. Lines 1, lines 2, and lines 3 are identical to what was shown on page 11, but now you'll notice that line 4, because we're assuming that prepayment in 2028 has increased by that $330,000. The other lines are nearly identical, except when we get down to line 10. Based upon this voluntary prepayment, the district is justified in maintaining your $8 debt service fund levy. So keeping it constant what it has been. Unlike some other states where it can go up and down just based upon where your payments are. Ideally in Missouri, we like to keep debt service fund levies identical to what they had been for as long as you can. 1, it keeps things constant for your taxpayers. 2, it will also put you in a position for another no tax rate increase bond issue if projects are needed for you to be able to move forward with that to present to the voters. By assuming this prepayment on page 14, once again, the cash flow. It is the same as what Connor had presented. The only difference being in that light blue column, now the payment for 27-28 is slightly larger. As mentioned before, when we are analyzing your debt service fund, just, we do it on an annual basis as a checkup to see where you are, what you can do, what you need to do, what your possibilities are. We like to look at that purple and that dark blue column. So you'll notice that the balances within the purple column after this fiscal year, they're about the same as what they are except for the following year, but then they grow much faster than where your payments, especially since now there is a big hole essentially from doing the defeasance and then some of the other prepayments on the back end. This is the signal to us for me to let you know that the district is in a position to pursue another no tax rate increase bond issue. So I know last summer I talked about a couple of different amounts, 4, 6, 8. You're still in a great position on page 15 to pursue up to an $8 million no tax rate increase bond issue. So this is the calculation for bonding capacity. Legally, the district is able to issue general obligation bonds equal to 15% of your assessed valuation, which takes into account both your local as well as your assumed state assessed. So based upon this, your lawful bonding capacity is right at about $10.5 million. From there, you have to back out what is currently outstanding. So as of April of next year, you will have $1.95 million of the 21 bonds still outstanding. You do get to add in the cash on hand that's assumed to be within your debt service fund account. So netting the 1.95 with cash on hand that's assumed, your net bonded indebtedness just over 1.1 million. If we subtract that from your lawful bonding capacity, you do have the ability to bond up to, just round numbers, 1.3 million. That's how much you can issue on a no tax rate increase bond issue proposal. You can go up to $8 million. With that said, I have put together a sample repayment schedule for $8 million for 2027 on the following page, going out to 2047. So unlike levies that are voted in that either will have a sunset or no sunset, with the debt service fund, there is an inherent sunset always built in because you cannot have bond issues that go past 20 years. So in this case, by extending it, by having it voted on in 2027, it can only go out until 2047. Hence why I have that last year in 47. 20 years is by state statute. You're only allowed to have a debt service fund levy for as long as you have bonds outstanding. Hence why it is that inherent sunset built in. On page 17, I do have a sample pricing summary. So typically when we're selling new money bonds, especially right now after the April election just occurred last month, we're selling many of them with re-offering premium. So this isn't something that I want to get into a lot of detail, but it's just the way, to be transparent, that we have typically been selling the new money bonds. We will sell them with a 5% interest rate typically, with yields less than that. I like to use my hands for illustration. You have a 5% interest rate with which you pay interest expense on. Typically, you're going to have a yield that is going to be less than that. As a result, there is re-offering premium that's generated. That's additional money over and above the par amount, in this case, $8 million, that can be used to, 1, pay the cost of issuance, 2, any excess can go into your deposit for your construction fund for overall projects. It's money that an investor essentially, they will pay the district more money up front in exchange for that higher interest rate, that 5% than they can otherwise get from other types of investments. You don't pay back the re-offering premium. You would just pay back the par amount. So in this instance, there'd be just over $370,000 of re-offering premium. Once again, just an illustration using the current interest rates. How much would the district actually get? So on page 18, and this page will be important when I talk about the agreement in just a moment, is our sources and uses of funds. So spelling out exactly where the money's going to go. With an assumption of an $8 million bond issue, generating re-offering premium of just over $370,000, that $370 can be used to pay the total cost of issuance of just over $100,000. The only number that's different within those total cost of issuance from what I had talked about last summer is that official statement printing and preparation. It has gone up $1,500, full transparency, as opposed to what it was whenever we were initially talking about things. So it's a minimal amount, but nevertheless, just wanted to point that out as far as what is different. Therefore, as mentioned, paying the cost of issuance, and there would be additional funds of just over $260,000 deposited into the construction fund. The last page, the cash flow. I like to put this together because it basically illustrates the point that the district can move forward with a no tax rate increase bond issue without having to raise the current debt service fund levy. So in this case, your payments and your balances stay relatively the same until we get out to about 4 or 5 years from the bond issue, and at that point you do see those balances start to increase. The 27 bond issue would have a 5-year call feature. So currently you have a 7-year call feature on the 21s. This would have a 5-year, which would allow the district to either refinance or make prepayments at that 5-year mark, March 1st of 2032, to give you more flexibility within the debt service fund account. Although it is no tax rate increase, it is an extension. So instead of your bonds being paid off in 2040, as they currently are without any future prepayments other than above the $330,000, it would now be 47. The one thing I will caution and will want to bring up with the district, you do have, let me go back to that page. There are right at $780,000 of bonds outstanding after 2027. So when we're looking at doing a Form C in future years, by continuing to do prepayments, at some point you will run out of debt. So that's why I do have the 2027 bond issue, so as to be able to continue that. I have had some school districts that have paid off their debt, and then they realize maybe a year or two later they've got projects that they need to complete. Therefore, when they go to the voters, it is a tax increase. Unfortunately, those have not been successful. It's hard to overcome. It's initially hard sometimes to establish the debt service fund levy, but then if you can manage it, and then if there are projects that come up that are worthwhile, that are communicated to the public, then being able to get that passed to keep that levy in place so that you can continue to make improvements. Last thing, it's a loose handout within the front, is an agreement. So although last summer the district did approve LJ Hart and Company as being the municipal bond underwriter for a potential bond issue, we have not charged the district anything because we were not your financial advisor. So doing the Form C calculation, running some projections from meetings that happened in January as well as March, coming tonight, we don't bill you for anything until we actually sell bonds on your behalf. With that said, we do have an agreement for if the district were to move forward or thinking about moving forward with the bond issue in 2027. This essentially spells out all of the services that LJ Hart and Company will perform as a municipal bond underwriter, from putting together projections, applying for the rating, marketing the bonds, putting together the closing memos, ensuring that trades as well as the flow of funds move where the district wants them to go, within your depository account. On the very last page, this is what I mentioned, the sources and uses. The Exhibit A is identical to what was listed on Schedule 2B, 2C. 2B on page 18 within the book. Once again, just spelling out that the total costs are identical to what I had talked about for a potential $8 million bond issue, except for that official statement with that slight increase from the $2,500 to the $4,000. If the district is potentially considering moving forward with it, I would like to get an agreement in place just so that we can start talking about what are some things to do in order to get ready to let the public know. The big thing that's been a benefit, and I think I mentioned before, just obviously social media campaign, potentially an informational video campaign to put together in order to let people know what's going on. That's a lot of information, and I talked a lot. What questions do you have? Do you have any questions?
Anyone?
Basically, Courtney, if the district and the board were to determine that there was something they wanted to do
Yes,
so that it would not be a tax increase,
correct.
they need a financial underwriter.
Yes,
So that's what this agreement is.
yes,
It doesn't obligate you to do anything. It just gives you the underwriter to help you if you do decide that you want to do something.
just formalizing,
Right.
formalizing, putting in paper what the district had selected for us to serve as last summer.
Already, yeah.
Great question.
All right, any other questions? Anyone wanna have any comments, discussion? Any motions on the agreement?
So there, like you said, Terry, the agreement just says, if we go forward with something, we will use LJ Hart, but it doesn't mean we have to go forward.
That's correct. You are not, the only thing you're doing is saying you have been under their advisement already since last summer. And you're formalizing that agreement that they will be willing to advise you and provide whatever you need if you decide that there's something you want to do.
Now, what year do we absolutely need to do something so we don't run out? of debt?
Looking at where your debt is, I think you can get through next summer as well. April of 28, I would say, I don't say drop dead, but August of 28.
Okay.
In order to be able to maintain, otherwise, once we run out of bonds to prepay, then the levy will go down.
Sure.
Because we don't fudge things. Great question.
So I guess to explain this to our constituents listening, we have the opportunity to leave a no tax bond levy. If we run out, taxes will go down, but it's gonna be a booger to ever get brought back up. So we have the opportunity to do something for the school, make it better, and we won't change taxes. And I'm just kind of, talking for the community. I think it's a good opportunity. We could maybe build Tipton a little better. We're not getting rid of taxes, we're just maintaining. So I'm gonna make the motion to accept the agreement.
I'll second that.
Motion by Derek, second by Bob. All in favor? Got a 7-0.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Yeah, I think Derek, what you said there is important to the community to note before everybody gets all fired up. We're obviously gonna have to do a lot of planning to see what's feasible and what we wanna do, find out from all stakeholders, get some people involved.
What we need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, not what necessarily what we want to do, sometimes it's what we need to do or have to do.
I'd really like to get people involved that have been highly vocal against it in the past, get them as a stakeholder, we can get those people in there, hear their side of it, work through whatever issues we have. I think we'd all love to get rid of gravel parking lots and other stuff like that, so, got a lot to work on, but, that will come with planning and time. I think that's important, Derek, that you said that, so people know. This doesn't mean we're doing it today.
Good opportunity.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Drive careful, stay calm.
Thank you.
All right, next up in old business, there was a junior high sports interest survey. I think, Jason, did you send that?
Yes, I sent that out. I created a survey, sent it to Dr. Wolf and Mr. Bestron. Had them take a look at it, make sure it's what we kind of talked about here. Sent it out to kids. We got pretty decent participation, 44 respondents. So a little over 50% of the kids responded. And, you can see the results there. Softball, cheer, baseball being the top ones, in that order. You saw the other one about the women that attend practices. I think it's kind of like the little bit of a shock from the elementary playing, sports in elementary where you go to practice once a week and play once a week to would you be willing to practice every day? It's like, yeah, I like to play. I don't want to practice. But I think, that's just part of growing up and you figure those things out. Like you got to practice where you play so you can be good at it. But, I think there's some interest there. I think there's enough interest there to probably support any of those teams, honestly. I mean, nine players for softball or baseball. I think you had, 16 for softball, 11 for baseball. Cheerleading, obviously, you can go with one if you only had one, so you don't have to have a certain number. We got 15 kids that responded to that, and wrestling's the same way. You don't need, a team. You can do it with one as well. So, I think that all four are, possibilities if that's something you guys are interested in doing.
If I read your email right, there's actually 8 kids for wrestling, or was there? You said one said he was interested.
Yes, sorry, there was 8. There was one that put that in the what other sports would you like to add? And we put wrestling in that column instead of just clicking wrestling in that. That was what thanks for bringing that up. There was actually 8 wrestling. Yes, they said.
So if you open this up to co-op like you do football and track, it could potentially be more kids.
I would assume
With St. Andrews, Clarksburg,
I would
or
assume
Clayton.
you pick up a few.
So this survey was just for the elementary.
Just
So-
our current 6th and 7th. It would be 7th to 8th next year. They would be the ones that would be playing.
So in theory, there could be even more interest.
I would probably just based off numbers, I would guess, for a sport like any of those listed, I would guess you'd probably average 2 to 4 for each one of those. You might have a few less with wrestling at St. Andrews, Clarksburg, maybe only pick up 1 or 2, but again, it's an individual sport. You need to pick up a certain number to a team.
Well, cheerleading was what was brought forward. I don't know that, has anybody mentioned softball, baseball, wrestling, as far as those coaches?
Yeah, I think,
They're all probably.
Yeah, all the wrestling, baseball, all of it's been.
they did reach out.
Or was there an actual plan in place, or have they presented that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as wrestling goes, basically a lot of high schools take the junior high the night of. Tournaments are different. They don't have the tournaments ongoing at the same time, but Saturdays, sometimes Sunday tournaments aren't out of the question for junior high youth stuff. As far as baseball, Cooper's mentioned in the past how he set it up. All of those things are feasible. It's just a matter of who's going to coach it, how much it's going to cost, where we're going to find those teams, what's our cap going to be. Everything comes with a price tag.
And I looked with softball and baseball, both you got to have a team to play. With cheerleading, it's a little bit different because you are a support, so you play with the junior high football team plays, or the basketball teams. With softball, baseball, we have Versailles in California who have both. So just with quick search, look at their schedules for softball, look at their schedules for baseball. You could put together an 8 to 10 game season pretty easy within your hour and 15-minute range. Where you play half an hour on the road, so you look at probably 4 to 5 road trips for either one of those sports.
Sure. Well, I was just identifying the fact that I knew Gina had come forward with a plan for cheerleading. But I didn't know if there had been other plans shared for softball, baseball, wrestling.
Do you know if any of our conference schools have these sports?
As far as wrestling, I don't. I know the schools that I looked at that have it are, because our conference isn't really a wrestling conference.
Right.
We have a couple schools, but our old conference, they actually started getting momentum towards wrestling in Colby and Windsor. And they do both have junior high and Stover, and Versailles as well. So you have 4 just right there down the alley in California this direction. So they got 5 right here with wrestling, with softball and baseball. Some of them have it, some of them don't. Softball one is a little bit different because we're the only one in our conference that doesn't play in the fall. So it's a little bit different. They're a big softball conference they have, but they play their season at different times.
Junior high softball would be fall.
I think you could.
Or would,
I think if you were gonna do it and wanted that program, and those coaches were interested in growing that program, and you wanted to, that would give you an opportunity to grow it, because then your coaches could do both, and it wouldn't have to be. But that's just,
Right.
theory, I'm not speaking for it.
Jason, just one question that comes to mind to me was, softball and baseball practices, where we don't have an abundance of fields. Is there going, by adding these, say we add those 2 programs, are we gonna have a problem meshing like times to get everybody practice?
I don't think any more difficult than what we have in the winter with basketball.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I get it, yeah.
You have multiple junior high, high school. You have 2 fields versus at high school, we have 2 gyms. I think it would be very similar.
Something you think we could feasibly do if we went
Yeah,
forward?
and I think that it would be a little bit easier because, with baseball and softball, like a day when it rains, you want to get practice in the field. So, they're used to being able to go hit at the gym, or you don't have to have a goal to shoot at. You could practice that on the field or at the playground on the turf. It's all places we practice baseball and softball. There might have to be some rotation where you have to get a little, but again, no different than what you do in the winter with basketball teams. I think your season for junior high, like football, and for basketball, I think is obviously an abbreviated season compared to high school. So you'd be talking like 8 games, 10 games versus having a full 20, game season, and it'd be shorter.
When do you think we need obviously to make a decision? There's going to be games scheduled, all that. Each school having a game probably isn't a big deal, right? But we probably need all the coaches to lay out costs. Because we have that for cheerleading, but we need the other school. I know like wrestling's cost will be transportation. A singlet doesn't cost that much. I don't even know if we provide the headgear or not, but there's not a lot of cost there. Baseball is just uniforms, softball's uniforms, as far as I know. There's probably some gear, kitchen gear, whatnot. We do have a little bit expanded practice ability with the new building at the park, which is a good thing. Softball and baseball can use that, hitting indoors, practice pitching indoors. So that'll be done soon. There's a plus on that side. They don't have to go hit in the gym and ruin the bleachers anymore.
That's not good.
Yeah.
If we did softball in the fall, how would that relate to participation in volleyball? Could it be competing against each other?
I don't think it would be the end of the world based off our numbers in junior high. I mean, yes, there are some kids that would have to choose, like they do at a lot of schools that have one or the other or both. But if you look at our numbers of junior high volleyball over the last several years, what would you say it averages?
Over 20.
Over 20.
And you can play 6 at a time, and you have an A game and a B game. So you're looking at potentially 12 kids getting to play, and you have over 20 on the team because rotations are hard at
You rotate
junior high
about
level.
9-year-olds max in a game, what I've watched.
So I know
And
plus 20.
Unless you have your lineup set, it's not like basketball where you can just send 6 new ones out there. Like you have to have your lineup carded and stuff. So there's a lot of nights in junior high and a lot of full seasons where kids don't play much at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids that don't get to play currently in volleyball just because the participation level is so high, and it's because that's the only thing that they have in the fall to choose from. So, not
I
saying
just
you
wouldn't
should
want-
or shouldn't do it. That's just
No, I just wouldn't want to create a new sport to the detriment of another sport. But with that
Right.
participation level, then it should be a problem.
which is what I've always liked about Tipton, like that
I went to California and I had to choose between softball and volleyball, and I played both of them. So I like that my daughter has the opportunity to get to play both here. So.
And I don't think it has to be necessarily all or nothing. Like you said, cheerleading wouldn't be that hard to start. Wrestling wouldn't be that hard to add. If it gets into a problem where some of these sports are going to undercut others, or it's going to be a problem where maybe we don't have the coaching and the ability to expand, then maybe we hold off on some. But some of these where the coaches are really eager to get after it, then I think it's makes sense to kind of pursue it. In my opinion,
That doesn't have to be all or nothing.
wrestling and sports like that would be like a
Just listing all of the
What's
sports.
good on available?
sport like wrestling would see huge gains and the ability those kids aren't picking up the sport as freshmen and wrestling against varsity guys. Now they're picking up as seventh graders and they're easing their way into the sports and not getting hammered their freshman year by varsity guys. And so a sport like that would be a huge benefit to that sport.
I think it would increase numbers in high school because
100%.
a lot of those guys who have the fear, I've never done this before, I'm a freshman, I'm going to a match and I'm going against a senior.
They try out there against the seniors,
You know,
champion, you're like,
at least if you're in seventh grade, you're going against,
right.
in theory, at worst case, eighth graders, but more than likely your own age.
And I think as far as wrestling goes, you have similar setup to volleyball in the fall. Like boys basketball numbers have been a lot, because it's the only thing they have to do. So it's in the 20s. Again, you have issues getting kids to ever touch the court. Where you have 27 kids playing an A and B game in the same night with girls. So I think there's room to expand there too.
Some of those like wrestling coaches, you're not competing for the same kids. Basketball kids aren't coming out of wrestling, so if I'm third or fourth string basketball and I can go step in and be a starter in wrestling, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Does anybody want to make any motions, recommendations, further questions?
Do you want anything explored? You mentioned it.
Yeah, I think fiscally we should explore.
You can reach out to those coaches too to see who's interested in growing their activity and see who we can possibly fill some of these spots with.
True, like baseball, well, Mr. Dean's moving into
Right.
athletic director role, and Cooper's already doing junior high football. So, I guess baseball, that would be a spring still on the boys' side. Okay.
But I think they've all, came to us at one point or another and not had the opportunity to give us their costs, with baseball and softball and wrestling. Like, they all came to us previously and said, hey, we want to start this program. Like, we want to look into this. But
How do we, do we get charged by the hour on our bus trips? Does anyone know?
I think that's the agreement with this company when we switched.
Okay.
We went from a flat mileage to an hour. So if they drop you off, it's cheaper than if they sat there for 4 hours waiting.
I think with the plan for the most expensive coming under, that's awesome. But, you're talking Harrisburg is probably a good,
Hour and 10 on the bus.
that's like our longest distance, that we're talking about. So they should probably include the hours of time for traveling. So you have 2.5 on the bus, 3 at the event, and then we can funnel down costs that way on transportation, because I see that as our largest cost.
Like cheerleading, they're going to be
We just home
never
games.
leave. Oh, they're just home games. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, never mind on that.
So like for Gina, like who's done the work, and we know it's only gonna be home games, I'm in favor of going forward with that one. And then getting the cost of those who would have to travel. Because it's really besides,
Oh, yeah, I think more opportunities. There's a lot that we've all seen more. If you're involved, if you're at school more, grades are better. Not always, but you're just involved more. you know, those coaches can help and say, hey, you're messing off in class, you're not gonna wrestle tonight, you know, or whatever that may be. You get to run extra. They'd have to, is there any sort of standard for grades and all that for the junior high level like high school?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same.
Because we kind of looked at that list and was like, well, you would or wouldn't be eligible, you would or wouldn't be eligible, like when we saw what they were picking, so.
Maybe to help them become eligible.
Definitely helps.
Yep.
You have something to hold over their head.
Yeah.
It helps a lot.
Do we wanna table this then till next
Till we
meeting?
get more
when
info?
We have,
Or was yours a motion?
well, I can make a motion. I think cheerleading, because,
We've seen those numbers.
that's fine, I mean, but, and then some of this, you know, like the travel expenses are gonna be enough that we kinda need to have a grasp of what that's gonna be.
I think the key would be to finding out how many games we might travel for, or matches. You know, just, you know, we'll have to have a cap in there, like junior high football does. Obviously, there can always be extra games picked up. We hope they come to us to play. Got ref expenses. There's a whole lot mixed in there. We can probably grab some numbers off of like what football does, really, and then your basketball stuff too. You know, you've got figures. We have data we can pull, I would assume.
Yeah, we know the price for officials for junior high versus JV versus varsity, so we can have, you know, that cost.
Yeah.
And transportation, same thing. We can be pretty close, and we can figure just the pitch high, so you aren't as safe.
I guess the question is, the original request for cheerleading, she mentioned was in a position where she could go ahead and have tryouts this spring for a potential junior high squad for next year.
Right.
So, but you would need to, if you want to move forward with that, you probably need to make a motion about that tonight so that we could inform her so that she could set up, because there's not that many days left.
And she's gone the last little bit of school, so.
Maybe something she's gonna have to get together over the summer, I guess.
Yeah.
With junior high, at least you have, they don't start their first practice until
Start school.
the Monday, they
Yeah.
start school that week. Another 2 weeks offset from high school, so.
I don't, I
I don't think they start games until Labor Day either, right?
Correct.
And realistically, couldn't, like, I did see the list of like stuff that they, you know, are going to need or whatever, and some of those expenses. I just wondered if it could be some of the stuff like mats and things like that could be shared where you didn't have to purchase all of that at the very beginning so that you could get it going instead of buying your own middle school mats and your own high school mats, because right now currently, as you all know, storage, you know, is an issue. So if you go buy however many more mats, it's like, could we look at some way to potentially use, you know, just the mats that they currently have so that you could get it started and not, and the cost would be maybe a little bit less on the projections of
Well,
what you
and
have.
to see if it's gonna pan out. You
Yeah.
know, you hate to buy all this stuff and then you have nobody interested in 2 years.
Do you know if there's any opportunity for hand-me-down uniforms as far as cheerleading is concerned?
Well, I don't know. I know that she's getting some new ones, but I don't know what that looks like with what her old stuff
They're very
is.
fitted, and
So
even like
each
those
person.
uniforms that we buy as a school, you try to buy uniforms that are kind of universal, but every one of them has to be personally fitted for that individual. And then they might have to be altered from the time that girl's a freshman to that time that girl's a junior. So
Got it.
But at the middle school level, can you look at doing something not so fancy as you do at the high school level? Could you start out kind of basic and work your way up? Where you're not
T-shirt.
going all the way in, like you have a skirt and maybe you do, maybe it's not, you know, maybe it's some sort of like, you know, if it's warm out, you do some sort of short sleeveless, like type, nice shirt, not a t-shirt, but sometimes the high schoolers wear, you know, a t-shirt on a Friday night or something like that. Just maybe looking at ways to make it less elaborate so that they can get started and we can get going and you can build it and make it better, but you don't have to start out, you know, at Caesar's Palace.
something
I mean,
between
it could be,
football, cheer, and our high school cheer, somewhere in between.
and then that way you at least get it going, but it doesn't have to be so expensive off the get-go.
I just, from my personal opinion, if we're gonna do junior high cheer, we don't need to have tryouts. all the kids can do it, they wanna do it, if they qualify to do it. I would hate to,
I mean, it's the only sport we do a tryout for, right?
I would
Yeah.
hate to push off a kid that might be interested, and all they really need is some help with stretching and all that, and it's junior high, it's not, we're not doing competitions, we're not, you know.
Well, and what you're good at in seventh grade doesn't determine what you're going to be good at in high school,
Right.
or even like your freshman year, you're different. But if our goal is to get everyone involved and include everyone, I do think that you're right, because, and this is way out there, but I mean, even with like cheerleading and body reach and things like that, you think about girls, and you just don't want somebody not making it because of something that they, you know, even if that's not the reason and they think that that's the reason, so, yeah.
Sure.
I agree.
Anyone interested in making a motion to approve cheerleading and wait on funding for the other stuff?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got, David and Amanda seconding. All in favor? That would be 7-0.
And then if we just get the info for the other stuff.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on cheer, because Dean's not here, and he's gonna inherit this moving into next year. As far as the budget goes for middle school cheer, do you guys have like, are you approving what she sent you as projections, or is there somewhere in between, or do you want to pause on that until next month and maybe Dean and her can meet, and we can share kind
Yeah,
of
let's
stuff
approve
we
it.
talked about?
Let's tell her we're moving forward. It may be altered uniforms.
Dr. Hanson, you wanna tell them what you said?
So we had junior high cheer in my last school, and again, they have form-fitting uniforms. It was universal, like a custom shirt and shorts, a basic general outfit uniform.
Yeah.
Like you can keep it simple, you can keep it to where all it's inclusive. Pom-poms were the more signature piece, the bows, that kind of thing, that are minimal cost.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because they do, I know, on May, sometime in May, they're fitting all the high school girls for their
I think the
stuff.
important part is learning the fundamentals, the basics, the chants, the cheers, that kind of thing, not the uniform aspect, so.
I think they're all great opportunities for
That
kids.
answers you, Jason.
So yeah,
So, yeah, like,
I would tell her to kind of number
for
down.
now, right now.
To move forward with the
From now until
program.
next board meeting, there's really not a lot that needs to be purchased to get started in this, so let's,
No, because we can
let's
roll
meet
out
and
on it.
talk, and then next fall, when the seasonal's out, we're not gonna do tryouts.
Overall, kind of thing. And we can kind of look at, you know, recommendations, you know, if she wants to bring, okay, I can do a shirt and have the girls provide their own black skirt, or, you know, she can come up, she's a smart woman, she can come up with, you know,
Yeah,
compromise.
they can just give you kind of ballpark, like a decent fitted shirt that will look nice and universal, either skirt or shorts is gonna cost about $48 a kid. So budget for X number of dollars.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you all for the information. Let's move on to new business. We have a discussion there's interest from Bunston to co-op football. With us.
Coach Duke is here if you've got questions. Also, Mr. Culpepper, I think they are the ones that have interacted with the Bunston AD the most. I just visited with the Bunston superintendent, and according to what Coach Duke has told me, well, the AD indicated that there would be 5 at the max from Bunston that would have an interest. He said they would provide transportation to practice. Not sure if that 5 would hold firm after they started practice or not. Coach Duke has told me that he has equipment available if you've got 5 extra people who come out. And any other questions you have, you should either ask Coach Duke or Mr. Culpepper.
Yeah, I would just add my piece to the puzzle that I can tell you after I talked to him the other day. You know, he also kind of tried to, I don't want to say scare them, but make them realize that this commitment is different than just committing to the teams that they played on constant, letting them know, like, you know, there's not just like, hey, it's football season, show up first day of practice. You know, there's 20 contact days in the summer. They lift year round, minus maybe 6 weeks after football season ends, or 2 weeks, whatever. And those are not required, but, you know, there's playing time. So if you're not going to get bigger, faster, and stronger in the off season, you're not going to probably find your way on the field unless you're just one of those natural freak athletes. So he tried to make sure he told them everything as far as expectation goes. The only piece he hadn't told me back that I talked to him about, because I wanted some clarity on, was transportation to weights, because that's 3 days a week, and they know that's an expectation for their kids. He was supposed to talk to those kids' parents that were interested, and I think their view was, from his, you know, opinion, was that the morning weights would be required on the kids and the parents to get transportation to. The school would be providing transportation to practices and games, not the open lifts, because those aren't required. You know, it's like you said, it's not required, but you better be there, kind of thing. But he hadn't got back to me to tell me on that, but I'm assuming since he didn't call me back, they probably agreed that they would provide transportation, or else he would have called me back and said, we have no kids anymore. So that's kind of what I know. Coach, did you got any of that?
No, it originally started, we have some members of the youth program that come from that area, and my question was, what happens to them? And when they get out of our youth program, do we just tell them you can't play anymore? And what if they have older siblings? What do we do in those instances? And trying, like you just said, with the junior high stuff, how do we get those kids included? So we show them a great product in our youth football program, and at the middle school level, there's nothing. So just good luck. You can't do something that maybe you're really passionate about. And moving forward, what's that plan look like? My question started as, do we have kids that are involved in the youth program? Yes. What do we have in middle school? We don't have anything that allows for that, although we co-op now currently, you know, with a couple of schools for middle school. And then how does that play on as they go forward? Obviously, with Michigan, you could always move. You could always move if that was something that was important to you. But is there something that we could provide for other people that is mutually beneficial for everyone? That's where this whole process started. Fact-finding mission. I asked Coach Culpepper to do that, or Principal Culpepper, my apologies. I asked Principal Culpepper to just see if there was any interest at either of those levels, and to see where it goes. I had no idea until Mr. Tuttle called me that their board went ahead and approved something without any kind of discussion whatsoever. Just trying to provide more student athletes, because you know, we have some great things going here. That was the whole principle of it.
So is this for middle school and high school? So co-op funds from a co-op both for both?
The question was posed, do you have interest at those levels to see? And the reason why I asked for that to be proposed that way is, does somebody have an older brother? Yeah. That was really, really it.
So these 5 that are interested, are they high school?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I don't know if there was junior high in there also.
one thing that we, as a district, would also have to consider every year, being a, you know, it's a year-to-year agreement, is what your enrollment number is here, what their enrollment number is there. Because right now we're class 1, we're pretty safe with class 1. It was 177 this year. Our number is typically between 145 and 160. Right now we're looking at 148 for next year. That's what it is. We've already turned it in, so we're at 148. They said they were going to be at 16. That puts us plenty below 177. The bad thing is Michigan won't release where that class 1 cutoff is for next year until next year. So as a district, you should always want to stay below that number for sure to be safe. I would always say 7 kids at least to 10, somewhere in there. So you want to keep your enrollment below 170 for sure. Combined, we only have to combine our enrollment for that one particular sport. Doesn't affect baseball or softball, just affects football. So your combined enrollment number would still be below 170. So you wouldn't have the fear of all of a sudden now next year you wake up and it's the 3rd Friday of the year and you're in Clair Oaks District for football. You would still be in class 1, it would change it. But next year we might go into it and we
find out next spring our enrollment number is gonna be 24, our enrollment number is gonna be 162, and then it's like, well, this probably isn't the best thing for us to do. So it's not like, you can always safely say you want to do this, because you do have a real question of, do you really want to move up to class 2 if your enrollment numbers are gonna put you in that situation with adding funds? So I think the reality is it's year to year based off of enrollment numbers.
So I had a question about cost because I know the district maintains all the equipment. And there's a cost per player. What sort of considerations do schools that want to co-opt with us give the schools they're co-opting with regarding equipment costs and things of that nature?
The superintendent told me that they do not do any cost sharing, that their portion is just to provide transportation. When they were co-oping with Prairie Home and it was half and half, they did cost share with Prairie Home.
What is our cost per player on football?
For a uniform,
Well, uniform, pads, helmet, all those sort of things. I know it's pretty
right
expensive.
around $1,000. Yeah. Right around $1,000.
Did you hear that, Bo?
1,000.
Yeah.
So, like taking on 5 kids, that would cost the district 5,000.
If we had to buy that.
If we had to buy equipment, he said, but coach says we have some extra equipment right now. So we would not per se have a cost gain.
Well, would that equipment also go to different players at different times down the road? I mean, if we have extra equipment, I guess it seems like that equipment isn't being used and would be used later.
Jerseys, yes, you kind of can with your shoulder pads and your helmets, with the way that they're regulated on safety, and you have to do yearly checks on them and stuff. It's hard to say that you're going to be out any money on helmets or shoulder pads, you know, if they're not. Maybe if you had a kid that played a lot, was taking hits a lot, like kids that we have on our team, depending on how much that particular kid from Boston plays, their helmet might get used up more, where you have to replace the helmet. But for the most part, football's kind of a different sport now. I don't know if you want to elaborate more, if I'm not doing a very good job.
Whether you play in one play or 150 in a game, your helmet has to be rechecked.
Yeah.
That's a non-negotiable. Shoulder pads, there's ways to check them, but helmets, they have to be rechecked. It doesn't matter, there's no, well, you only play 50% of the time, it still has to be looked at.
So, just to make sure I'm understanding, maybe for Bo, let's say we have 50 helmets, but we only use 38 this year. We still have to send all 50 back at the end of the year to be reconditioned or
They only
recertified.
recertify them for 1 year.
Right. So either way, whether they're used or not, they're going to have to be
They gotta
recertified, and the cost to the district is the same.
It's the same. 100%.
I guess if that player's good enough that he's wearing out a helmet, he's doing a good job.
If he uses it up in 1 year, he's selling this one.
And we do wear through some helmets. There are several that come back every year that do not pass recertification and have to be replaced.
I think it's important to note that we have invested significant money in the football program as why we're in a good spot with equipment, but we're not running a charity. I think if Bunsen wants to play, they need to pay for the equipment that they're using. It's my personal opinion, because we can't just take on kids at our cost that our taxpayers have already paid for this stuff. So it's not like Bunsen's taxpayers have paid us to help pay for this football equipment. So if their taxpayers want to send their kids here to play football, I think they should help pay that cost. Saying that they're not going to help out other than transportation, maybe we just say, hey, if we wanted to do it, it would need to be with you paying for equipment, helping share that cost, because there's reconditioning costs, like Coach said. There's ongoing, just every day, that just recurring costs for things. Coach does a heck of a fundraiser with the golf tournament. People at least know that, hey, that there's other kids that playing for Tipton from Bunston too. Might get some more sponsors for us, You know, you never know. It could expand that, but I think the equipment side alone, they have to help out. That's my personal opinion.
I would say that just looking at it from a financial standpoint, that's the direction you guys want to go. I would just say you wouldn't want to charge the whole $1,000 per our setup, because it's not like it's disposable after 1 year. Yeah, you have the helmet check and stuff like that, which costs money, but it's not the full 1,000 every year. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how much that uniform cost total, but then you have rechecks throughout the 4 years, so you wouldn't need to charge 1,000 per kid per year.
So do you know,
Right, but we are paying stipends to the coaches, and they're not helping to pay the stipends for the coaches or paying for the refs or any of that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm like, let's just somehow come up with a cost. I understand what you're saying, like maybe it's like a quarter of it.
If you were just, I was just saying, if you were just talking about
Yeah.
uniforms.
Yeah, yeah.
do we know other
That's
schools
true as well.
that co-opt in other sports? You know, Otterville recently co-opted with Univille. Did they pay any cost or anything, or do we have the ability to find that out, or other schools that,
I can text the board member in Northwest
you know,
right now.
yeah, you know, just to see, so that we wouldn't be out of line asking for something, but I don't disagree with Brad that, you know, there's gonna be additional costs, you know, because at first I thought, well, we don't charge St. Andrews and Clarksburg, but most of those people are already taxpayers.
Sure.
So this would be a school district that's not paying anything to us, so.
Even if it was like $200 a kid or
Right.
whatever, just a little skin in the game.
Coach, I got about 3 questions, and they're not bullets, they're just questions that I wanted to double check on. And this might bounce between you and Jason. Have you all thought ahead? I know we have like a grade standard, how we're going to communicate back. Say we went forward with it like a grade standard. Are we going to hold those kids to the same standards that we do our own here? He's saying yes, and you're saying no. So
Well, the way we do it with our other sports are, that's the city and school. Like, for example, we might have one of our junior high schools that we go up with that has a much, I would say, stricter standard for their kid. So a kid at our school might be eligible, but if their kid has a C, they might not let them play football.
So we'll leave that up to Bunston then. That would be their
With
call.
the caveat that no matter what, everybody that plays in this sport has to meet the very standard, which is passing 80% of your classes per semester. Because it's high school, so it's just semester, that's why it matters. They have to pass 80% of their classes each semester.
Okay.
And that's why, yes, the mission has to stay good.
Okay.
They have to stay, that has to be followed, no question.
And then my other question is if we do move forward with this, my feelings, I kind of hope you probably feel the same way, Coach. Before we say, yes, we want to do this, I think we need to reach out to our patron parents, because I know we're all about, you know, the best player plays. Well, when it's everybody at Tipton, you know, my son gets beat out by France, you know, that's just how it works. Well, when you bring, say, 5 other kids, not saying they're going to be perfect stars, but if I would like some feedback maybe from our patrons, because I don't want to go through with this and then down the road, Nathan's boy gets bumped by somebody, and then he's mad, you know, because he got bumped and they didn't have any knowledge of this. I just don't want to see our patrons get upset because we didn't kind of feel them out, I guess, a little bit. Is that something you'd be interested in, you know, talking to our parents about, or is that something you just best player plays and get over it? I'm not putting you on the spot.
I think it's a fair question. Again, I was on a fact-finding mission. I wasn't expecting a school district down the road to approve something that we didn't even have all the information for. But I have no problem talking to parents and doing those things. I think we also have to understand that the neighboring school district doesn't have football. And that's the only reason we're having this discussion. So likelihood of their abilities is probably different than what we're doing. That's the proper way to put it.
You I understand.
But I do think that even if it's at the JV level, you know, if they're a junior on JV, they might beat out a kid that is from Tipton as a freshman for a JV spot for a while.
or Bunsen and Braden lose co-op in a lot of sports, there's definitely going to be not major issues because you're talking about such a small number of kids. But whenever that does happen, even if you say that at the meeting, oh yeah, I'm fine with my kids just gonna step up and do better. It won't affect you until it really affects you, and then you will think that. That's just, I think that's human nature.
Yeah, and I get that. I've talked outside a little bit about other schools co-oping a little bit and just kind of touch base with them. You know, what were the pros, what were the cons, you know, and some of it was, you know, where two schools are blending together, like Bunsen and Prairie Home, it was a little different. Well, where we're established and we're bringing in, you know, it's a little different, but I just kind of wanted to see what.
I think one of the beauties of football is there's over 40 different positions you can play versus basketball, there's 5, right?
Sure.
Baseball, there's 9. There's an ability for people to get on the field at all different levels and in multiple games. Even last year we had a freshman-only game, which was one of the first times in Tipton history recently that we've been able to do that because of the sheer number of people, right? I think any of those concerns can always come up. I think it's how you talk to people and how you educate them as you go along. And if our kids are being pushed and competing, I think it's making everybody better.
You bet.
You got another one? You said 3.
No, I think we answered that third one within the grade stuff.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Coach.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jason. Nothing short of you.
Anyone have any comments?
I think it's a good situation for, you know, the Bunsen community to be able to let those kids that have the push and drive to want to, you know, play ball. They don't have that opportunity. You know, it's not like they can just run to another town to play. I think it's, you know, transportation would be a big one, but that's nailed down. I know you all are concerned about the cost of equipment. You know, I think we're gonna have coach stipends, we're gonna have ref costs, we're gonna have equipment upgrades no matter what. May it be a touch faster, you know, if that kid plays a lot, it might be, but in the end, you know, if that kid is playing a lot, he must have earned it, and he must be bettering our team a little more.
There's some solid youth players that they brought over this year. And I think that would grow our youth program, but we're not, I mean, it starts early in football, everybody knows that, all the way through. But whatever you guys think.
My opinion is the only known cost we would have to doing this is the transportation cost. Because the equipment we already have, you're always gonna have more because different size kids, different size heads, different size shoulder pads, you're always gonna have extras. So that cost to me is negligible, if any, because we're already building that into our program. With them picking up the transportation cost, which is the only, in my mind, additional cost, because you're gonna have, it's not by adding these 5 kids, we're not gonna all of a sudden have more games that we wouldn't have had, pay referees. So the benefits in my mind far outweigh any negatives that I can come up with, since they're gonna be paying the transportation.
You know, we say we're all about the students. You know, what if one of these 5 or 2 of these 5, if it turns their life around and they become an outstanding football player, and we would be part of that. So I say we do it.
Or by the same token, if it gives a kid who doesn't play a sport they offer the drive to have to be eligible, to have to go to school, to better themselves, but you're gonna pay dividends far outweigh high school sports.
Yep.
David, was that a motion you were making there?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Is there any, before we vote, I know I got a chance to say, are there any other concerns from you, Mr. Principal Culpepper, and Coach Duke? that you all would feel that could pop up. I try to be, respectful and not mess up everybody.
Use his middle name, whatever that is.
Scott. That'll mess me all up, be even worse. Are there anything that you all can think of that might be later pop-ups? I mean, I think we've nailed equipment, practices, everything. Do you feel like this is something that's manageable, easy enough, and we can move forward exceptionally?
I mean, I think that there's always random little things, their bus is late, we're supposed to leave at 4, they're rolling in at 4:10. There can always be little things like that, but I think major things, with the number of kids that they're gonna bring, it's not like they're bringing half the team, kinda like you said, whenever Bunston and Braydon combined.
Yeah.
I think with a co-op, you're bringing a minimal number of kids, kinda like Clarksburg and St. Andrews, so I don't think that they really, dictate the culture of the team or change it one way or the other. So I don't think.
So I know the 5 kids are high school, but are you opening it up to junior high too? Or is that
I think that's what we asked if they would.
Okay.
And I mentioned.
Which I think.
I think from a football
sense,
standpoint,
yeah.
you would want them to have 2 years off.
Right.
And I mentioned that before, I was like, if I need to go meet with somebody, some of you that have met players on the team, I think I do a fair job of communicating and getting all of those expectations put out there. And whatnot. Those are things that aren't going to change just because you have a different address, right? The goal is I didn't want anybody left behind. Because if that's my mission, if you all feel comfortable with it, great. I will do my very, very best with it. If y'all don't feel comfortable with it, I'm still going to do my very, very best with the kids we have here. So without giving possibilities to more people out there.
What I don't know, after a year, we couldn't gauge if there's truly extensive amount of cost that's coming into play.
So do we need to specify that, Harriet, that we approve this as the motion's been made, that we're approving this co-op on a year-to-year basis?
Yes, I think that's what we said.
Okay, I didn't know if it had to be.
Didn't you hear my motion?
No, you didn't. You said so moved.
Well, because of student count.
Okay.
And whenever we do an admission, it says what's the sport.
Right.
So we have to.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody knew this was for a year.
I don't really see why any of this is a big deal. It's 10 minutes. Took me 15 minutes to get to my high school. It's just our perspective is a little different. Being in Tipton and everything's 2 minutes away, so I don't see why they couldn't get here on time. If one of the high schoolers can drive, you can grab them all, right? I was just concerned about cost, because we're always talking cost. You done with your discussion?
I am done. Thank you, sir.
So David, if I
My
heard,
motion still stands.
okay,
My second.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or raise your hand, sorry, whatever.
You gotta say, I know.
Right.
Maybe
Oh,
the
you're-
president now.
Yes, he did,
Yes.
that's right.
7-0.
And, Mr. Culture, I presume you'll talk to the AD.
Yes, I will.
All right, Missouri State dual credit agreement.
Yes, we have 2 MOUs, and that's because there are 2 campuses that we interact with regard to dual credit. One is in Springfield, one is in West Plains. This past year, we did not have anyone from Springfield enrolled in the Springfield program. We did have about 5 enrolled in the West Plains program. But we would like to sign a memorandum of understanding with both of those programs in the event that this next year we have a student who wants to take dual credit from one of those campuses.
So it's just available if needed. is what
Yes.
we're agreeing on.
Yes. If we have a MOU with them and a student sees a dual credit course they want to take with either one of them, they're able to do that.
Yeah. It's not a big difference, but I noticed that.
I'll make a motion to accept both MOs, is that what you said?
MOU.
MOUs for the dual credit plans agreements.
I'll second that.
Amanda made a motion for dual credit agreements for both West Plains and Springfield, is that correct? Bob second. All in favor? 7-0. Next up will be our bathroom floor bids.
It was my understanding that the board wanted me to pursue what it would involve to epoxy the bathrooms in the elementary level. We already have them done in the high school, if that's correct. And specifically, we were talking about getting bathrooms ready in the preschool area and all the other elementary areas. So I advertised for bids. We received 2. One was from GRP Wegman. The other was from a local contractor in Sedalia. I'm not sure what Tipton's policy is. We used to have a 10% policy preference for local. I don't know, I didn't look up to see what Tipton's board policy was on local preference. There is a difference of $121,372. However, the higher bid includes painting the walls after the project is done. The lower bid does not. The lower bid requires the district to test for and remove asbestos, and that's an unknown quantity.
Have you seen them?
No,
No, I think he means when they were built was.
asbestos.
Yeah,
work.
asbestos.
I would say
Yeah, no.
that building's
Shouldn't
not that old,
be.
so we
It
shouldn't
should.
have an asbestos
Shouldn't have
floor
been
yet.
done by 9,000.
No, the only one was the one in high school there to do, so.
That's, I mean, I feel like that's would be a big token of the bid difference is the asbestos testing. You know, paint pretty irrelevant.
Well, almost, what?
Are we required to do an asbestos testing?
If we go with the lower bid,
Yes, it says,
I mean,
any
let's-
material is assumed to be asbestos and must be tested by the district. That's the first line.
So, one of them was going up, epoxying up 54 inches on the wall, the other was 36.
Correct.
Everybody here knows a young boy, 36 inches isn't tall enough, I don't feel.
What are you saying, Brant?
Our current,
They don't be young boys.
hey now, the current dividers in there are literally they're metal and they're being eaten through by splash. You know, the floors are the individual 1-inch tiles. I asked Emilio last year how to possibly clean them, what we do. I asked him if we could bring in power washers, and he's like, I have. He's like, you can't clean all this grout. It's been there for years and years. So that's kind of the reason for wanting to seek to get these cleaned up, and they're just as bad in the individual classrooms for the older kids. I think Ashley was there.
3 classrooms.
3 classrooms, the kindergarten and the new preschool classroom, which is the special education classroom right now.
Okay.
But there's 2 bathrooms in each room.
Yes, there's a total of 10 bathrooms.
Well,
There's a
actually,
boys and girls.
6. Oh, that's the partitions in 6. This is partitions.
So
Yeah.
2 in each classroom, and then there's a boy and girl on each side of that gym hallway.
Well, there's 2 on each. I don't know if you count that.
Yeah, there's a boys and girls, so that's what.
So that'd be 10.
Okay.
Your commercial
What's those 2
asbestos,
of those?
you're probably looking at approximately $10,000 per building of our size. Is what the asbestos testing would be. Just from my experience reviewing construction bids.
And that's just to get tested.
That's the tip, yeah,
That's not removable.
that's
You're
not
saying
removable,
we
but
probably won't
chances
have-
are that removal, I mean, you would hope when that building was built, there's no asbestos in it.
What year was that building built?
Carl Hibden was the superintendent.
It was before 05, so it wasn't here then.
Yeah, Carl Hilton was the superintendent.
I was a senior.
What?
In the elementary?
What year did you graduate? That building wasn't there in '04.
We have a sign.
That was 2000.
The elementary building?
Yeah, that was-
Yes, it was.
I thought it was 2006 too.
2004?
I'd almost put a bet on this off camera.
I don't think so.
Oh dear Lord.
Why don't you,
All right, let's get back to what we're,
Well, my point is if it's even in the late 2000s, our construction sets are not going to let us use asbestos again. So the variability of a chance of asbestos is probably prominent towards the 0%.
yeah, but they sure screwed up that jet.
Is that gonna make the difference in your decision?
No, I just think there's a big difference in that number when there's a 10K asbestos test
Yes.
and
but we would
A
rather
little
go
paint.
54 inches than 36, right?
yes.
And have the wall paint.
And have the wall paint.
You're gonna have to deal with this asbestos regardless of which bid you take if it's there.
100%.
So how much is the first bid gonna change if we add 56 or 54? And add paint?
Paint's not my worry.
Yeah.
We have
We have some.
high school or summer help.
I think I agree with that 100%. I think that the painting piece of that can be done throughout the summer.
Yeah.
With some of our summer help. We've done that in other bathrooms and it's turned out, I think, pretty well. So
really the main difference is 36 to 54.
And your asbestos tests.
What does everybody think? There's an enormous cost disparity.
Can we find out what the lower bid would be at 54 inches?
Sure, I can call them.
So that there can, I mean, we're comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges.
Yes.
Because if from what the way I'm reading it, if there has been a lot of issues with the low bid coming in at X, but then by the time we get change orders, it ends up at Y.
Right.
Then obviously the higher, because most construction jobs when you bid, you put the bid out, not just lowest price, it's usually lowest and best. So you have a leeway there where you're not stuck taking the lowest contractor. But once we get an apples to apples comparison, that cost may end up being quite a bit closer than it is now.
I don't think 18 inches is going to cost $120,000.
I don't either. No, I don't either. But
I think, we could.
I think, what do you think? And I personally think due diligence, comparing apples to apples, can't hurt.
Yeah.
Find out. If they could give us a cost turnaround, we could always just have another quick meeting to approve it so they can get started this summer and get it done.
Okay.
I know we're probably running up against timelines on getting everything done.
What else do you want me to find out besides, the cost of 54 inches?
54 inches, have the other company remove the
Painting.
paint.
Okay,
No pain.
all right.
If everybody's in agreement with that, we'll just
I agree strongly both ways.
All right, I'll call them tomorrow.
table that bad boy out.
So moved.
Okay. Very good.
EIO.
Now we're ready for audit bids.
We advertised for audit bids, and we received 2. The lower bid is the company we are currently using as auditors. So our recommendation is to stay with that company. Any questions?
How long have we been with that company?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it was.
How long?
It's been over 5
Yeah.
because that's why we bid it out.
Right.
Probably, I looked it up once, I wanted to say 7 to 9 years.
Yeah, I wanna say when I came as the president, we were using that company as CTA president, we were using that company, because I remember your reports. And hearing reports from that. That was like 7 years ago.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Wanna make a motion?
So moved.
You have to,
You can't say so moved. You didn't make a recommendation. I got one
I
question.
made a recommendation.
Bob
Oh,
did.
you made a recommendation.
Yeah,
Sorry.
she made a recommendation, I agree.
I guess the second comes, I'm not going against your recommendation, I just was curious. Graves says, 1 fee or a straight fee, but I hate this laptop. Additional work at $200 an hour, have we ever ran into that?
No.
Okay.
And in fact,
They lowered it.
we got a letter today, they're lowering their fee for this year because, we no longer have to have a federal audit. Typically, that's what your extra expense is. If you were at a certain threshold of receiving X amount of federal money. And we did receive that during the pandemic because everybody was receiving that extra federal money. We're no longer receiving it, so they are reducing what they're going to charge us this year, which would have been in an older bid because there's no federal audit required. And the other thing that usually triggers a federal audit is your food service. However, since we contract ours out, we're not subject to that either.
Did I get a second on my motion?
No. Second.
I think David's motion was to accept the superintendent's recommendation.
To use Graves as substitute.
Yes. All right,
You always
David,
want all the little fine details. I like that.
David with first, Derek with second, all in favor? All right. 7-0. Thanks, Bob. All right, well, your next up is our roof repair estimates.
I think Shannon got some information from Nathan about people he could contact that were in closer proximity to the district. And so we had a person from Weathercraft come out and look at a couple of our roof problems. The first one primarily being in the gym area where we have the high school gym area. It was their determination that the last job was done incorrectly. It was improper, the flashing was improperly installed, and that they can install a new termination bar or fix what is already installed improperly. And that would be a cost of $4,660 to stop that leak. Then the maintenance building, I'm not sure what you guys call it, the white cinder block building, where you can see the sky through the roof. If any of you all have not been up there, I would encourage you to please go up there and have a look yourself. I've been up there personally and looked at it.
I was in there today while it was raining.
Were you in that back room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what'd you think?
Need a little roof work done.
Yes, it does.
So is it which end is
The north
west.
end.
The
Well,
north
I
slope
apologize.
of the west end of the building. So it would be,
no paint, but
that was way before my time, or way after my time, I should say.
this bid that they've given us also includes ice and water shields at the gutter's edge. It said this price includes drip edge, gutter, and downspouts. That was something that you all were wanting to have done anyway. It falls below the threshold of needing to bid it. If you're not ready to make a decision, we can get some more quotes. Without having to advertise for bids, we can call for some more quotes. Or if you're ready to make a decision, here's your price.
Is anybody in favor of doing 10 on that building instead of the shingles? And then while we're at it, putting 10 on the gable ends, because that's getting really nasty looking. On both ends. The 10 to me would be a little more durable. I mean, hailstorms, you know, could dent it a little bit, but hailstorm on a shingle roof is going to be tough on it.
Anyone have any comments? I don't know why we would spend a dime on that building that has holes in the cinder block foundation of it.
Where are you gonna put this stuff? You ought to go in there. I was in there today, there's all kinds of junk in there. Maybe not
Junk is
but
the operative word.
it's almost back to the state it was when we sold all that stuff and threw it away. I mean, there's tons of desks in there and chairs and tables, and there's 2 big gaylords of books. And I don't know, you're not gonna be able to build a building for $45,000 to replace it. And we could spend a few dollars on this one. Yeah, we may need to get somebody to look at that foundation, but there's gotta be somebody that can help us with that, I would think.
Could we talk about the gym first and
Yes,
get
ma'am.
some feedback on that, and then talk about the older building?
Does it need to be 2 separate motions, Ms. Harriet, or is it just
I say we split it
one?
Yeah.
Where the
Depends
bid's
on
one section, I didn't know if, or the bid was submitted as one, I didn't know if it was split.
We can split it. I think you have more questions about the second part of it than, unless you've got questions about the first part as well.
I think the repair on the gym.
Yeah, but I think Craig had already said something once before about, he had looked at just from the ground, I think, and that was, he had said that was installed improperly, so.
Well, he had said that the cinder blocks too, and he does that.
Well, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The gym
Oh,
flashing.
yeah. I think we absolutely have to do the gym flashing. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
So can we have a
I'll
motion
make a
on
motion
that?
to approve the gym repairs.
I'll second.
$4,660.
All right, we got Derek first, Shelley second, all in favor? 7-0. I really, if we're gonna do something, let's make it durable. See what they want on, cost on 10 or metal, steel, whatever you put up there.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost difference would be or whether there even is much, but I do think the 10 would be more durable.
Would that be a different company?
I think Weathercraft does too.
They probably do both.
Think they do metal roofs?
Yeah, I'm sure they do rubber and shingle, I don't know about 10.
That's what, sometimes we found in my other experience that companies that do metal typically don't do the shingles and the other way around.
We can figure out somebody.
Frontier would probably be a good one. I think they install 2. Martin does too. I mean, those are a couple. Frontier Metals, Martin Metal.
And Excel.
Excel, yes ma'am. My worry is, you know, say we go with this quote, 46,000. I'm fine with doing the work to the building. My worry is longevity of that structure a little bit. I know it's not easily replaced, but I'd love for that building to last a long time. But at the same point, I worry about spending even 40,000 on it if it's the structure maybe is unrepairable or is failing.
Well, obviously we need a building, because I mean,
I get that, and I understand.
You know, we have a structure that needs some attention and has needed attention for quite some time and hasn't gotten it.
I
So,
mean, I do know that was one of the biggest things when our bond failed, is that people said we need to take care of what we got first. So, and I understand there's foundation issues and maybe it's not worth fixing, I don't know, but, I mean, at least get it checked out.
there's gotta be somebody out there that we can contact that would look at that.
I mean, if they can replace the block and make sure it's good foundation still, pull the trigger on both. I'm just worried a little bit about the structure integrity of it. And like you said, I wanna take care of what we got, but if it's failing,
Yeah.
you know, we can't sink good money into bad, and maybe it's time to cut our losses on it. I don't know that answer yet. I think we need to maybe see if we can find somebody that deals with it.
Well, the good news is that is not affecting our day-to-day school operations, so it's not as timely. Yes, we need to do it, but I think we have a little bit of time that we can gather some information and make a better choice on it, you know, versus, I'd hate to put asphalt back on there, shingles, you know.
I'm afraid they're gonna find several more spots where they're gonna need cheating replaced. So,
I'm just thinking, you know, we have a concrete pad there. There's smaller metal buildings that can be put there, that all these companies do, like, you know, 40 by 40 or 40 by 30 shop or something on that concrete pad existing. Yes, it
couldn't
will
get all the junk in there.
It will be.
No, he's saying put a building right back on top of it as a replacement.
If they can't fit the junk in there, that's a good problem, and it just needs to go be thrown away. But,
I took a grand tour of it today and it's,
A mess.
it's a mess.
everyone want to gather some more data on that?
Yes, sir.
Cool, cool.
I would say we would
Gather
also
more data or whatever I need to do, so moved or whatever.
contact Weathercraft and see if they do metal roofs. Get a bid on that too. Since they've already done the measurements.
Correct.
I mean, they can probably get us a quick one back and then we can have an idea. Is metal gonna be more cost efficient?
If they do metal, we need to add the gables in because they're really insane. I mean, you paint it, some of the wood's not very good.
I suspect that there's a lot of foundation things.
All right, well, that leads us to the end of our agenda tonight.
I make a motion to move us in the executive session following 610.021 for 3, 11, and 13 to include Mr. Culpepper, Ms. Hanson, Ms. Bestien, Ms. Pettigrew, and Mr. Bestien.
All right, so,
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you all.